All right, guys, ready? Okay. So what I'm going to be doing is proving, or not say proving, I'm going to be showing the evidence to God only using science, without using the Bible. In the end, you'll see if I can do it. Okay? So if you guys got the papers, instead of just asking questions during it, I'm going to have pre-questions, one of the top 10 emotional questions that people may ask, like if God is real, then if God is all loving, then why would he send people to hell? Like that. And then you could just write it down and we can have a Q&A, all right? So let's get started. So what is the point of doing this? So I actually got some statistics. So 1 in 4 professors is an atheist or an agnostic in the college campuses. There was a survey done in 2007 to figure out if there was any pattern of anti-Semitism, which is, people who don't like Jewish people. And they found that there was virtually none. In fact, what they found was that there was more than half of the professors have unfavorable feelings toward evangelical Christians. And only about 6 professors say the Bible is actually the Word of God. And if they say they're actually the Word of God, then only about 6% of professors are actually Christian. And you find that 51 of professors say that the Bible is actually an ancient book of fables, legends, history, and moral precept. College professors are actually 5 times more likely to be an atheist than people in the general public. So that's the whole point. Since I started college, I've been thinking about this, and I've had a lot of factual doubts. And so especially for the young teenagers, I want to help you guys out toward this battle. Watch this. 60 to 70% of 18 to 30-year-olds raised by the church will step back from the church when they head to college. 60 to 70%. So 60 to 70% of us raised in the church, statistically, will step away from the church. And only 1/3 of those will come back to the church. Only 1/3. Is that crazy? All right. So what is the reason? The reason that I found is that we don't know how to defend God anymore. We may say that, oh, Jesus lives in our heart. That is true. That is true, guys. But to the person who is not understanding, who is an unbeliever, they may not feel the same way. So, contrary to popular belief, Christians are just not to have faith. Christians are commanded to know what they believe and why they believe. Here's some verses. They are asked to give answers and to give answers to those who ask and to demolish arguments against the Christian faith. In addition, they are asked to question religious beliefs. And Prophet Isaiah says, "Come and let us reason." In addition, Paul says, "I'm setting a defense for the gospel." So using reason is actually part of the greatest commandment, which is to love the God with all your heart, soul, and mind. All right? So this is the whole point of this. The question of God depends on all these 5 questions. So the origin, where do we come from? Identity, who are we? Meaning, why are we here? Morality, how should we live? And destiny, where are we going? So all of these depend if there is a God or not. So let me get through this. I'm going to do some basic stuff, like 10 slides, before we actually start the evidence. So the definition of truth. What is truth? It's actually telling like it is. That's the whole reason why we go to college. You try to find out truth. And what is the problem with these statements? Well, yeah, that's true for you, but not for me. Or there is no truth. Or all truth is relative. Or there is no right or wrong. It's opinions. Can you guys find it? What's wrong with these statements? No? These are actually self-defeating statements. They defeat their own proposition. So what it means, a self-defeating statement is one that fails to meet its own standard. So when I go back, yeah, well, that's true for you, but not for me. So is that statement true? See, it defeats itself. And there is no truth. Oh, really? So is that statement true? So because they're claiming there is no truth, there is no objective truth, but the truth, to say that it's true, there is no truth. Okay? And all truth is relative. Oh yeah, all right, so is that an objective fact, that all truth is relative? See where I'm going with this? So the claim, because you have this in the college campuses, you have, there is no truth. That's why there is no religion, because they're all relative, But that's wrong, because the claim there is no truth claims to be truth and thus defeats itself, all right? So I want to get the basics up in here. So truth exists, it cannot be denied. Those who deny truth make the self-defeating claim that there is no truth. So they're basically saying, like Winnie the Pooh, when someone knocks the door and they're saying Winnie the Pooh says, "No one's home." It's basically like that. It's like, toot, no one's home. You see, it's self-defeating. Or it's someone who's saying, "I can't speak or work in English." What did I just say? I just spoke a word in English. Or it's someone who says, my brother is the only member of my family who died, who lived. It's like, what? But you're a brother, so you're living. You see these self-defeating statements? It's because the law of non-contradiction makes this self-evident. So what is the law of non-contradiction? It's a really big word, but it means something is either this or that. It can be A or it can be B, all right? I'll tie this down. So when investigating any question of fact, including the question of God, the same law of non-contradiction applies. So what does this mean? Can all religions be true? No, it can't. Why? Because you got Islam saying, in the Quran saying, Jesus did not crucify, they did not die, and they don't even believe he's God. But you got Christians who are saying, yeah, he's God, and he died for you, and he rose again. But you got Buddhism saying there is no God. And you got scientists where the atheism saying, no, there is no God. Everything's materialism. So you see that the answer is no, these contradictory beliefs cannot all be true. All right, so let's get that basic. All right. So while some religions have some kind of moral code, they disagree on virtually every other issue, including the nature of God, the nature of man, sin, salvation, hell, heaven, and creation. And those are basically the whole biggies. That's what defines religion. They can't even agree on the nature of God. So no, none of these religions not all be true. And you see this self-contradictory statement coming up in the college campuses. So let me get through some stuff, some definitions. So theism. Theism is right there. So you would say to believe that there's a personal God in the universe who created it, and the God is the painter, and the painting is his creation. So you have the three basic one, which is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And then you have pantheism, which believes in a impersonal God that literally is the universe. So what they believe, God is trees, God is grass, God is you and me, all right? And that's Zen, Buddhism, and Hinduism. So they have atheists, what looks like a painting has always existed and no one painted it, and that's atheism. And you got the fourth one, which I'm going to add, is agnostic. You're unsure about the question of God. You don't know, or there's another type of agnostic that you don't think there's enough information to determine if there's a God. So there's religion equals faith. That is not true. That's why I'm going to get this right. Facts are central to all religions. Religion can be informed and confirmed by science, all right? By investigating the nature and history of the universe, for example, we can reasonably conclude that one view is right and the other is wrong, all right? So in the words of Albert Einstein, he says, science with religion is lame, but religion with science is blind. That's exactly what I'm saying here, all right? So what is this intelligent design before we get there? So what I'm arguing for is something outside the space-time continuum who transcends natural laws, and it may be a force or impersonal. It's just general, all right now. And then we're gonna eliminate any other religions as it goes. So and then how are we gonna prove this? We will use induction to investigate God the same way you investigate other things we cannot see, by observing its effects. Like gravity. If I get a bottle and I drop it, I'm not directly observing gravity, but I'm observing its effects. So for example, a book. If I have a book here, who made this book? Grass, erosion, or a person? A person, because by our observation, we would know that pre-existing intelligence created a book, all right? So here's the basic question. Just as a book requires pre-existing human intelligence, are there any observable evidence that may seem to require some kind of pre-existing supernatural intelligence? In other words, are there effects that point to God, all right? So let's get to this. We're going to go to three arguments. You got the cosmological argument, you got the design argument, and you got the moral argument, all right? So this first argument, everything had a beginning, had a cause. All right, well, we'll see that. The universe had a beginning, therefore the universe had a cause, all right? And if both premises, number 1 and 2, is true, therefore the third premise has to be true. Capiche? All right, let's do this. So the first premise, the law of causality, is the fundamental principle of science. Science is finding all causes, okay? So if there's one thing we have observed about in the universe is that things don't happen without a cause. When you're driving on a road, a car just doesn't pop out of nowhere. Something must cause that, all right? Second premise, until the time of Einstein, atheists could comfort themselves with the belief that the universe is eternal and thus does not need a cause. From the 19th century then, they all believed that the universe was eternal, and therefore you wouldn't need a designer, But now we all know the universe had a beginning, as what scientists call the Big Bang. All right? Now let's look at this. What the Big Bang proposes is that time, space, and matter arose from nothing. So there was no time, there was no space, there was no matter, and then all of a sudden, in a huge explosion, we got everything that exists. All the matter, all the energy, all the time that exists is right there. So what scientists tend to do is that they try to redefine nothing, especially physicists. They try to say, okay, string theory. Or well, when nothing was, it was just quantum vacuums. They try to say that. Try to find a natural cause for this. But it's impossible. Nothing is nothing. Nothing, it cannot be the absence of something. Nothing is nothing. Nothing is what Aristotle said. Nothing is what rocks dream about. That's nothing, all right? So there cannot be no quantum realm. There cannot be no string theory. It can't be. That's why when they propose that, they're just proposing in assumptions. So and then what is more reasonable? Someone created something out of nothing, or nothing created something out of nothing? Someone created the whole universe into being, or nothing created the whole universe into being? I'll just leave that to you guys to think. All right? So you got the director of Mount Wilson Observatory and the founder of NASA's Goddard Institute of Space Study. He states, which is an agnostic, so they're not unsure about the belief in God. He states, now we see how the astronomical evidence leads to the biblical worldview of the origin of the world. The details differ, but the essential elements in the astronomical and biblical accounts of Genesis are the same. The chain of events leading to man commenced suddenly and sharply at a definite moment in time in a flash of light and energy. And this is one of the men that proposed the theory of the Big Bang. And this is agnostic stating this, affirming the creation. He also states, astronomers now find that they have painted themselves into a corner, because they have proven by their own methods that the world began abruptly in an act of creation, to which you can trace the seeds of every star, planet, and living thing in the cosmos and on the earth. And they have found this that happened as a product of forces they cannot hope to discover, that there are what I or anyone would call supernatural forces are at work is now what I think is a scientifically proven fact. An agnostic stating this, all right? So you even have Arthur Eddington, who was one of the founders he was brilliant in the 19th century. He was an English astronomer, physicist, and mathematician. He admitted that the beginning seems to present insuperable difficulties unless we agree to look frankly supernatural. And the Big Bang actually turned him from an atheist to agnostic, because you got Genesis, which is a more than 2,000-year-old book claiming that the universe had a beginning, and by their own methods, they actually affirmed it. Okay. Let's see it. So the question is, what brought the universe into being? So the person who brought the universe into being cannot be an it. The being must be outside of space, time, and matter. So that means he must be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. All right? He has to be outside of space. He has to be outside of time and matter. All right? He cannot be composed of matter if matter came out of the Big Bang. All right? So even Alexander Vilenkin, who is a Russian cosmologist, and he's a proponent for the multiverse theory. He states, it is said that an argument is what convinces reasonable men, and a proof is what takes to convince even an unreasonable man. With the proof now in place, cosmologists no longer hide behind the possibility of a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. So even though one of the biggest multiverse theorists, they still confirm that you still need a beginning even though there's multiple universes, all right? So what is this cosmological recap? So everything that had a beginning had a cause. So what is that? That's the law of causality. Science is basically finding a search for causes. The universe had a beginning. Therefore, it was the Big Bang. And you have so much evidence that around 95% of scientists agree to this Big Bang. Therefore, the universe had a cause. And since it had a cause, someone had to bring it into being. So my favorite argument is the design argument. So what does the design argument state? It states that every design has a designer. Can we agree with that? Like when you look at a watch, you don't say, wow, Rojan gave me that, or wind, congratulations. And then the second one, the universe has highly complex design. So we're going to see that. Does the universe have highly complex design? And then you have the third one. Therefore, the universe had a designer. It's my favorite one. So let's do this. Imagine you're walking along the woods and you find a diamond-studded Rolex on the ground. What do you conclude? The cause of the watch? Wind, erosion, natural forces? What do you guys will conclude? What do you guys think? Someone dropped it. Of course not. It cannot be wind, water, erosion. There's absolutely no question in your mind that some intelligent being made that watch and some person dropped it there, all right? So scientists are now finding that the universe in which we live is like a diamond-studded Rolex. I know that's not a Rolex, but just bear with me. Except the universe is even more precisely designed than the watch. This leads us to the anthropic principle, which is called the fine-tuning argument. So what is the fine-tuning argument, all right? So the fine-tuning arguments are properties in our universe that keeps the universe stable and existing. So these properties are so precise that if any one of them was changed by a small amount, we would not exist. All right, so you're probably saying, all right, so what are these? So I'm going to give you a short little description that Frank Turek, who was a philosopher, states. In this vast and hostile universe, we Earthlings are much like astronauts who can survive only in the small confines of their spaceship. Like a spaceship, our Earth supports life as it hurls through lifeless space. Also like a spaceship, a slight change or malfunction in any one of a number of these factors, and either the universe or Earth itself could fatally alter the narrowly defined environmental conditions we need to survive, all right? So that was a little summary. So what are these? The oxygen level. Our oxygen level comprises of 21% of our atmosphere. If it was 25%, we would just be bursting fires everywhere. If it was actually 15%, then we will all suffocate and die. Pretty precise, huh? Let's see the next one. Degree of transparency on the Earth. If the transparency of the Earth was more transparent, that means there would be too much radiation, thus we will all die because of this radiation. If it was too thick, there would not be enough radiation to contact the crust. In addition, you have atmospheric composition. CO2, it's made of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and so specifically carbon dioxide. If you minimize carbon dioxide, that means you will not have if you increase carbon dioxide, that means we will all suffocate and die because we need the right balance of O2. And if you minimize the carbon dioxide, that means there will be no plant life, and thus we will not be here because without the oxygen produced from plants, we can't exist. Gravitational interaction, the gravitational interaction between the sun and the moon. If it was increased, between the earth and the moon. If it was increased, what will happen? If it was increased, that means there will be like tsunamis every day. But if it was decreased, then the sun and the moon and the earth would just expand and just get out of there, and we will die without the moon. And gravity, watch this. If the gravitational force was altered by, I'm not going to say that number, but it says 1 to the negative 37%, our sun would not exist, and therefore neither would we. Talk about precision. So and then you also got earthquakes. Earthquakes actually help us if you don't know. Earthquakes, if there was more earthquakes, we would of course die. But then if minimize the earthquakes, there actually won't be enough nutrients going to the oceans, and we wouldn't be alive because of the contents of the ocean. So this is the most extreme, the most phenomenal one. This is another fine-tuning. 30 trillion miles is between the sun. So that's the average distance between suns, all right? Now suppose what is the fastest man-made vehicle that we created? Do you guys know? No, a spaceship. It's right there. So we got a spaceship, all right. So we're going to travel there. What is 30 trillion miles? Okay, I can't comprehend that. So what is the distance of that spaceship? The distance of that is 5 miles per second. It goes up to speed of 17,000 miles per hour. And if we travel 30 trillion miles and 17,000 miles per hour, we would get to the next sun in 201,450 years. It's like, whoa, Vitor, I can't comprehend that. 201,000 years, a lot. All right, suppose we took off at the day of Christ, so 2,000 years ago. Until this point, after 2,000 years of traveling in space, we will only be 1/100th of the way there. 1/100th of the way there. Can you guys see how big the universe is? And so look at the rocket. That's it. That's 1/100th of the way there. And keep in mind that this is only 2 stars in our galaxy. And you might be like, Vitor, how many stars are in the galaxy? The number of stars in the universe is equal to the number of sand grains on all the beaches of the whole entire world. You know that little grain of sand? On all of the beaches is equivalent to the number of stars. Are you guys getting how big the universe is? How awesome the heavens are? So then even Psalm, when I studied this, I actually agreed with, I actually understood more of the Bible. It said, Psalm 19, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the work of his hands. And even Isaiah 40:25, he says, to whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One. Lift your eyes and look at the heavens. What is God basically saying? He's basically saying, oh, you want an idea who I am? Go outside and look up. Because you know why? Because the distance, well, to our opinion, when you see the amount of stars equivalent to the grains of sand on the whole earth and 30 trillion miles, we can see to our perspective that it looks infinite. That's why he tells us to look to him. And even 2,000 years ago, without even knowing about these anthropic principles, without even knowing the distance between the stars, Paul says, for since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuses. This is coming from a man who didn't know the complexity of a cell, who didn't know the fine-tuning of the world, who didn't know the precision. He just basically said, oh yeah, just look outside and you can clearly know that there's an existence of God. That's not my argument, I'm just pointing something out. Let's get back to the evidence. So the laws of electron mass, atomic mass, proton mass, strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, cosmological constant, mass of the universe, and many more are fine-tuned to govern the universe. How many anthropic principles or fine-tuning principles are there? There are more than 100. 100 of these. That any small deviation from these more than 100 principles, we wouldn't be here. Neither would the universe. You even got Nobel Prize winner Laurent Arnaud-Pinius. He's the co-discoverer of radiation afterglow. Radiation afterglow was one of the evidences that led to the Big Bang. He states, agnostic by the way, he says, astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which is created out of nothing and delicately balanced to provide exactly the conditions required to support life. In the absence of an absurdly improbable accident, the observations of modern science seem to suggest an underlying, one might say, supernatural cause. All right. So you're like, whoa, hold on. Can these forces be a coincidence? If it was a coincidence, then there's no use to be a God. So let's see if it's a coincidence. Astrophysicist Hugh Ross has calculated the probability that these and other constants, which are actually 122 in all, would exist by chance without an intelligent designer. What are the odds? The odds are 1 in 10 to 138. That's 1 in 10 to the quinquadratillion. I actually said that right. That number is huge. It's like, Vitor, I can't understand that chance. What do you mean, all right? So to put in perspective, there are only about 10 to the 70 atoms in our tiny universe. So what is composed of atoms? Everything, us, plants, the gas, air, everything is composed of atoms, stars, planets. And the probability is almost twice as the amount of atoms as there is in the whole universe. So in effect, there is zero chance that any planet in the universe could have life-supporting conditions we have unless there was an intelligent designer behind it all. All right. You have even Isaac Newton stating this, actually commending this. The most beautiful system of sun, planets, comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. You even have James Tour, a chemist in nanoscience, who says only a rookie who knows nothing about science would say that takes away from faith. If you really study science, it will bring you closer to God. Amen. So now, is there more evidence for design? All right. Suppose let me give you a little story. Suppose you have a guy named John. Now, John likes this cereal. I never ate it. It honestly looks like garbage. But, all right, he likes it, Johnny. Suppose he puts it right in the middle of his table every night. So when he wakes up, he can eat it. And suppose when he woke up, he found this. Take out the garbage, Mom. What is he going to suppose? Earthquake? What is he going to suppose? A cat knocked the box off? All right, so let's go to the next one. So then he was walking, along the street, and he skipped school. He went to the beach. And so he found these two people in his class named Mateus and Melissa, and they were holding hands. It was like, oh man, I don't like them. And then what happened? He saw this, Mateus and Mel. What is he gonna suppose? Is it wave patterns? Oh no, wind did that. Wind composed these messages. So then, okay, let's go. He was just walking. He was tired of life. He lay down and he looked up. He saw, drink Coca-Cola. What can you compose? That all of these messages must come from an intelligent being. This must come from Mom. That come from probably Mateus. And this must come from a sky. This must come from a typewriter, a Sky typewriter, even though we did not see it. So now let's look at a longer, more sophisticated messages, all right? So you got nitrogenous bases, which compose of DNA. You got adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, all right? So they found that these DNA contains the instructions needed for an organism to develop, survive, and reproduce, all right? So what have they found? Science has demonstrated that DNA is actually a digital code. It's a code. And what they found is not only complex, it also contains a specific message. DNA is specified information, all right? So let me elaborate a little bit on that. So you have a one-celled animal. This is actually an animal. It's one-celled. We're composed of millions, trillions of cells. So you have one cell right there. It's called an amoeba. It's so small that several hundred of those could fit in an inch. So you can see how small that is. So naturalist evolution, the atheists, they may say, all right, this one-celled amoeba, or something like it, came together by spontaneous generation, without intelligent intervention, in a warm little pond, somewhere on very early Earth. It was an unguided process that was spontaneously generated from non-living chemicals which evolved to where we are now. All right, so let's see what happened. In 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick discovered DNA, and what they found that the chemical that encodes instructions for building and replicating all living things. What did they find? They found in just the little nucleus, which is the red thing, has more information than 30 volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica combined. More information than that. Just the cell. How much in the whole entire cell? No, just in the nucleus. How much in the whole entire cell? More than 1,000 sets of Encyclopedia Britannica. That's how much information there is in just one cell, and we're composed of trillions of it. So and then, in other words, if you spell out ATGC, all those nitrogenous bases, in the primitive and simple amoeba, the letters will fill 1,000 complete sets of encyclopedia. Not only that, but the 1,000 encyclopedias do not consist of just random numbers. It doesn't consist of that. But it consists of letters that are very specific, just like a real encyclopedia. That's how much information there is in just one cell. So the key question is, if a simple message like take out the garbage mom, Mateus loves Mel, drink Coke requires an intelligent being, then why doesn't a message 1,000 encyclopedias long require one? Why? All right, let's go on here. In Stephen C. Meyer's book, Signature in a Cell, he says, intelligence is the only known cause of a complex functioning information processing systems. It's a lot of big words. In other words, in the history of scientific and intellectual research, we can find no example in which information came from anything than other an intelligent source. And the information is embedded in our genetic code, the DNA. So then let's put this, the preciseness of DNA in perspective. All right, here's PJ. So you got PJ there. PJ is not my dog. He's one of Luca's dog right here. He has to be the laziest dog I know. Lazy. Like, I throw a bone, he just looks at me and is like, no, I'm not getting that. No, I'm not. Like, he couldn't even get up to take a picture. And so you got PJ here. This is a better picture. So if I put a typewriter in front of PJ, he won't be able to type, all right? He's not that smart. Sorry, Lucas. He's not that smart. But suppose theoretically he was able to type this. Is this information? Would you guys say yes or no? It is information. It's the most basic level information. Because what are the odds of him composing that again? The odds are very improbable. But you can just infer that he was just stepping on it. All right? And is that the same level information as DNA? No, it isn't. So what is PJ trying to say? I don't know. What does PJ want? I have no idea. Suppose PJ also wrote this. All right? TT space, TT space, TT space, TT space, TT space. Wow, now you're going to conclude that's a very smart dog. That's a very smart dog. Not even some little kids in our church can do that, all right? So would this be information? It actually would. It would be still the basic level information, all right? So what does PJ want? I have no idea. What is he asking? I don't know. I don't know what he's asking, all right? But is this DNA? Is this the same level of DNA? No, it is not. All right, theoretically, PJ typed this. T13 space, T13T space, T13T space, T13T space. Now, wow, this is a very smart dog, very smart. Now, this information is the basic level information called statistic, all right? Now, what does he want? I have no idea. What is he asking? I don't know what PJ is asking, all right? And is this DNA? No, not even close. This is not the same level of information as DNA. Now, what if PJ wrote this? Vovó the eats letting. Vovó is grandma in Portuguese, if you guys don't know. So he's basically saying, grandma the eats letting. Now, you can conclude this is a very smart dog, very. Because he's actually getting letters and he's composing it to words. Although we don't know the content of it, we can conclude this is very smart. Now, what is he saying? I have no idea. What does he want? I have no idea. Is this DNA? Not even close. Not even close. Now, suppose PJ typed this. Vovó is eating. Grandma is eating. Wow. Now, this is a very smart dog because he actually got letters and composed them into sentences that have meaning. And this is actually describing something. This is the next level of information called semantics, all right? Suppose PJ was even smarter and he wrote this. Let's eat, Vovó. Let's eat, Grandma. Now, wow, this is the most upper level of information called pragmatics. It's the most upper level. Now, we not only know what he wants, but it's different from information that's describing, just like Vovó is eating, that's just describing. But now he's actually commanding it. And how do we know it's so precise? Because if we just take off the comma, let's eat Vovó, and we just say, let's eat Vovó. Now, PJ wants to eat Grandma. So you see the sweet little dog that was, kind of lazy, and now it's the demonic dog that wants to eat Vovó. You see that? And that's DNA. If you just change one little coding, it just disrupts the whole sequence, all right? So even naturalistic, let me keep something in mind. Physics and chemical processes can only give us from the third one up. So from T13T up. It cannot even get close to the most upper level information, not even close. With the most prestigious labs, with the most prestigious with all the funding possible, with the top scientists, not even close. And evolution is stating that we got the most upper level information with no intelligence. While with our intelligence, we can't even get the most upper level. We can only get halfway. Interesting. You even have naturalists, which is an atheist. He thinks that everything is natural. Paul Davies, a physicist and scientist from ASU, he states, we are still left with the mystery of where biological information comes from. If the normal laws of physics can inject information, if we are ruling out miracles, then how can life be predetermined and inevitable rather than a freak accident? How is it possible to generate random complexity and specificity together in a law-like manner? We always come back to the same paradox. Here's another guy. He's really smart. He's Werner Gert, an engineer and information technology specialist. What he states, he says, a necessary requirement for generating meaningful information is the ability to select from alternatives, and this requires an intelligent, volitional being. Unguided random processes cannot do this, not in any amount of time, because this selection process demands continuous guidance by intelligent beings that have a purpose. All right? Now take a look at this. He's one of the smartest nanoscientists that I know from Rice University. He says, look at this. If I assemble a dream team, okay? Suppose I get the top 100 synthetic chemists, the top 100 biochemists, the top 100 evolutionary biologists in the world and put them in the best lab in the world with all the limitless funds. That means they have all the money and they have the best equipment and the smartest people there. I will give them the carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acid, and proteins, were the basic components of a cell. And he said, I will even put them in assembled order. He says, I will give them the DNA, RNA, and I will give even them the information. Now, suppose I ask them to take those and make me just one cell, the most basic living organism. They would say, you're crazy. We can't assemble on those. We can't build that. You see? And then what evolution proposes is that not only evolution with random processes, what they propose is that with no guided process, we somehow not only got that simple cell, but somehow we evolved, and it evolved to personality, it evolved to consciousness. And you got even the agnostic, atheist, and the Christian stating this. He's Jewish, actually. And now let's look at this. What caused the Grand Canyon? Does anyone know? What? Say it. No one knows? My gosh. Yes, erosion. All right, but did any of you see it be formed? Did you guys see erosion form it? No, but why? Because this is the principle of uniformity. Let me describe it. It suggests that the Earth's geological processes acted in the same manner with essentially the same intensity in the past as they do in the present, and that such uniformity is sufficient to account for all geological change. So what did this mean? This means that by the principle of uniformity, we can conclude that the natural processes, particularly water erosion, were responsible for the Grand Canyon. It is a byproduct of erosion. We can conclude this confidently even though we weren't able to see it because geologic change is consistent. And we observe these natural processes created canyons today. And you can even go to a lab. You get a pile of dirt, just put water, boom, you get a canyon. It's proven, it's erosion. Now, who created this? Could this be erosion? Why? Why not? It's simple. Common sense tells us that erosion could not have done this. Our common sense principle is actually the principle of uniformity. Since we never observed natural laws chiseling a highly detailed sculpture of a president's head into stone at the present time, we can rightly conclude that the natural law could not have done this either in the past either, all right? So what are you trying to say, Vitor? All right, I'm trying to say, today we only see intelligent beings creating detailed sculptures such as the Grand Canyon. As a result, we are right to conclude that only in the past, only an intelligent being, which was the sculptor who created that, could have created the faces on Mount Rushmore. In addition, likewise, when we look at the first one-celled life, the principle of uniformity tells us that only an intelligent cause could assemble the equivalent of 1,000 encyclopedias in just one living cell. So this is the recap of the design argument. You got every design had a designer, which we saw clearly with the watch. You're just not going to assume some guy dropped it randomly or just wind. And the universe has highly complex design. I showed that with the fine-tuning, with the 30 trillion miles, and with the complexity of even a cell. Therefore, since both premises are true, logically, you have to conclude the third one. Therefore, the universe had a designer. All right? So now, conclusion. What do you have to believe without an intelligent intervention? What do you have to believe? That something arose from nothing, which was the origin of the universe, that order arose from chaos, which is the design of the universe, and life arose from non-life, which means intelligent rose from non-intelligence, and personality arose from non-personality. That's what you're going to have to believe without a God, without an intelligent designer. Now, what is the evidence for intelligent design to be true? What is the evidence for God to be true? A universe that exploded into being out of nothing, a universe with over 100 fine-tuned life-enabling constants for this tiny remote planet called Earth. And keep in mind, I just did the fine-tuning arguments for cosmology. There's actually biological fine-tuning principles. In addition, you have life that in just one-celled amoeba has as much information in its DNA as 1,000 complete sets of Encyclopedia Britannica. In addition, it not only has information embedded, but it's also very specific and it commands, all right? So we go to the last argument. Now this one that it touches a lot of emotional, all right? So let's get this, all right? So what is the premise? Every law has a lawgiver. Can we conclude that? I'm not even going to go over that. Can we conclude that? The Bill of Rights didn't just come out of nowhere, all right? Or our laws. Every law has a lawgiver, all right? So let's see the second premise. There is a moral law, all right? So we're going to see about that. Is there a moral law? Therefore, there is a moral lawgiver, all right? Let's go through the premises. So what is the moral law? What are you talking about? So when I say that the moral law exists, I'm saying that all people are impressed with the fundamental sense of right and wrong. It's basically, we know right from wrong, every single one of us. For example, we all know it's wrong to kill innocent human beings for no reason. Can we nod? Yes. All right, yeah, of course. And we all know it's wrong to torture babies for the mere fun of it. It's wrong, right? Yes. All right. So let's conclude this. We have all intuitive sense of moral oughtness. We recognize that some things are right and some things are wrong, regardless of culture, time, or location. We understand that it's never morally right to steal or to kill for the mere fun of it. We all know that. It's simple. So, but then someone may say, Vitor, we don't have a moral law. Why? Because some people still kill innocent beings for no reason. Some people don't have that right or wrong inside of them. So I'm going to respond to this. This does not mean that every moral law issue has easily recognizable answers, or that some people do not deny the absolute morality exists. So let me give an example. So there are difficulties, problems in morality. People suppress and deny moral law every day. So let me give an example. Some people may deny it and commit murder anyway, but deep in their hearts, they know murder is wrong. For serial killers, I saw an excerpt from a book. They said serial killers cannot feel the regret, the emotion that it feel this remorse, this wrongness, but they still know it's wrong. And so that's what I'm imprinting, is that you do not need to reason it or to discover it. You just know it. It comes naturally. We're born with this sense of right or wrong because the moral law tells us in our human hearts. It's basic. So like all absolute moral laws, murder is wrong for all people in all places at all times in America, India, and Zimbabwe, in every single country, and now forever. We all going to know this regardless of where we are and regardless of which time period. All right, so you even got University of Texas, Austin professor Jay Budowitsky. He writes, everyone knows certain principles. There's not a land where murder is virtue and gratitude is vice. Even C.S. Lewis states, think of a country where people were admired for running away in battle, or where a man felt proud of double-crossing all the people who had been kindest to him. You might as well just imagine a country where 2 + 2 = 5. Because he's just stating that we all know it's what's wrong and we all know what's right, okay? I'm basically saying with all these slides, all right? Overall, it simply means that we have a basic principles of right and wrong. Everyone knows whether they admit it or not, just like the serial killers, all right? So, Vitor, where do you go with this? I don't understand, all right? So you just described what the moral law is, all right? So let me give you 2 definitions. If God does exist, then objective morality exists, all right? So what is objective morality? It's the perspective that there are things about the universe that make certain moral claims true or false. So it doesn't matter on people's opinions. We know it's wrong to kill. We know like it's wrong to rape babies. We know that. It doesn't matter if someone feels like doing it. We're all gonna know that it's wrong. This can only be justified if there's a God. I'm gonna go later on to that. The second option says if God does not exist, then subjective morality exists. What is it? The perspective that there are things about the universe that make certain moral claims based on opinions. What is this? So basically, it's all based on an opinion. Hitler, the man who killed millions of people, I felt it was wrong for him to do it, but he felt it was right. So it's not really wrong, so it has to be right because it's his opinion. That's what subjective morality states. And this has to be the evolutionary ground. And no one likes this because they know it doesn't exist. We all know objectively that that we have right and wrong. All right, Vitor, so what are you trying to say? Well, why can't we have objective morality without God? I'll give you some reasons. They may state, well, evolution gives us our morals, gives our objective morals. We don't need to kill each other anymore because survival of the fittest. We want our species to survive, I want human beings to survive. That's why we don't kill anymore like people used to do back then. Or it's unnecessary to kill, rape, murder now because we evolved to a higher state of consciousness, and this evolved our morals for the better. Let me show you the reasons why you cannot justify morality without God. Because moral laws are not chemical or biological, they're immaterial. If I say, what is the chemical composition for justice? You're going to say, there is no shame. What is the chemical, what is the atom of love? These stuff are immaterial. You cannot justify it by chemical or biological matters, all right? And you even got chemistry and biology are descriptive, not prescriptive. Evolution describes what survives, not what ought to survive. Why humans? Why should we survive? Why can't cockroaches survive? Why can't chimpanzees or other them survive? That's speciesism. So should we rape to survive? If evolution is true, then it's basically just to survive and thrive. Then why shouldn't we rape? The animal kingdom does it always. Why in human beings is it bad? Have you guys ever wondered that? They just do randomly, they just start raping everyone there in the animal kingdom. But with us, they can be emotionally scarred if you get raped. Since evolution is a process of change, then morals must also change. Rape may one day be good. Killing may one day be good. You never know that. Because if evolution is changing with our morals, it's just based on opinions, then this is all subjective. It's all a matter of opinions, all right? And why cooperate when not cooperating often helps you survive? So people say, we have objective morality because it's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. No, that doesn't exist. You know why? Because Stalin killed 15 million of his own people with only a group of his henchmen. And he died at 74 shaking his fist at God one last time. You don't need to cooperate. Why should I cooperate? If this is all of evolution, I can do what I want, And should we murder the weak to survive? This is exactly what Hitler thought. Let me give you guys an excerpt. Mein Kampf is Hitler's book, okay? That's Hitler's book. He actually did what Darwinism and evolution stated. He actually quoted from Darwin's book. He says, if the weaker race does not want to fight, they have no right to survive. That Hitler did something what Darwinism said, what evolution said it too. So why is he wrong? If he thought it was wrong, if he thought it was right, then it has to be right. Why is he wrong? If there's no God, then this is all subjective. It doesn't really matter. You see the gravity of this? All right, so then you're probably saying, all right, I'm an atheist or I'm an unbeliever. Since evolution can't account for objective morality, then I believe in subjective morality. So what's the problem? What's the problem with that? Here's the problem. If subjective morality exists, then this is not really wrong and that is not really right. These are actually bodies. They're starved. These are the Jewish people in the Holocaust. Then if subjective morality is true, that is not really wrong. Majority of the people think it's wrong. But in Hitler's opinion, he just thought it was right. And that's not really right. That's Mother Teresa. She spent her whole life helping homeless children and orphans. That's not really good. That's what she thought was good. But I don't think that's good. You see, subjective morality is the dumbest thing ever. So let me do a consensus. How many people think that this is bad? Raise your hand. Raise your hand right now. How many people that having the generosity in your heart and helping people out is good? Raise your hand. Just by this consensus right here, we realize that this is objectively evil, and this is objectively good. So what does it mean? That there must exist objective morals. And just like I've stated, objective morals is immaterial. It cannot be accounted by evolution. Therefore, there must be a God or an intelligent designer giving us these morals, all right? Without an objective standard of meaning and morality, then life is completely meaningless. There is nothing absolutely right or wrong. Everything is a matter of opinion. This is what the evolutionary point is, if there's no God. In fact, statements like murder is evil, racism is wrong, or you should never hurt or murder children or abuse them have no objective meaning. It's not really wrong in subjective morality. It's like, I like chocolate, you like vanilla. Doesn't really matter. You see that? See why objective morality, since we all know it's wrong, subjective morals cannot exist. So what does everybody think? All right, so, I do evil and I also do good, but, that means I'm fine. God will understand. If there's a God, he'll understand because, I do good from time. Here's the fake moral standard. Hey, you have Mother Teresa. She was big or she was good, And you have the moral midget, Hitler. He was really bad. He was ugly. He was annoying. And then what do you have next to Hitler? You have the criminals, Oh, they're not as bad as Hitler, but, they're pretty bad, they still do bad stuff. And then what do you have next? You have all them immoral people. Like first come to mind, Trump. He's not a criminal, but, he's probably immoral. Many people may think that. And then where do you guys all go? Where does everyone think they go? They go right here, right next to Mother Teresa, because we're all good, we're all good. And then what do? You put a line in the sand and say, this people go to heaven because they're good, and these people are bad, they go to hell. But that's not really what exists. What exists is the moral standard is above the moral standard. And we all know that we have fallen short of this moral standard. You know why? Because we have all done evil. You cannot call yourself a good person because we have all cheated, we have all lied, we have all stolen in some sense. And so this is basically the gospel. You have people on the left side, God on the right side, and you have Jesus Christ, the same being, because Jesus is God. That's what I'm pointing out. The same being who creates and sustains the universe wrapped humanity over his deity. He came here, he lived the perfect life, he died and suffered the punishment for you, so you will not only be forgiven, but you will be given his righteousness. And you can come in a relationship with God. All right, so that's basically the whole moral message. But that was I diverted a little bit. That was the gospel, since we're a church, all right? But let's get back to the evidence, all right? So what is the point of the moral argument? In an atheistic worldview, they cannot justify what is right from wrong. This means you cannot really justify that someone is good and someone is evil, because if evolution is true, it's all a basis of opinions, all right? So this is what I want to know. Guys, you do not need to be religious to know right from wrong, all right? People can do good stuff if they're not a Christian. You can, of course. But here's the thing. You do need God to justify right or wrong. So the good thing that you're doing is not really good. It's just a matter of opinion. This is probably one of the most controversial and one of the most powerful arguments for the existence of God. So then, in other words, where's the grounding to say that Hitler was evil and Mother Teresa was good if it's all based on opinions? All right? That's the evolutionary point. That's what evolution states. It's all a matter of opinions. It evolves. But if we have God, the moral standard up there, then that's objectively wrong. I don't care what Hitler says. I don't care if he thinks that's right. I think it is wrong because it is imprinted in my heart. And that objective standard can only be justified if there's a God. So the second point I'm trying to make is, since there is objective moral values, then the only explanation of these moral values has to be God. You guys can argue with me later if you want to. So therefore, objective morals, moral values show the evidence for God's existence. So what do we know from God based on these three arguments? What do we know? We know that God has to be self-existent, timeless, non-spatial, immaterial. He must be timeless, spaceless, immaterial, because he created time, space, and matter. Therefore, he must be outside of time, space, and matter, all right? In other words, he's without limits. He's limitless. He's infinite, all right? So he must be also imaginably powerful, unimaginably powerful, since he created the entire universe out of nothing. And that's what Aristotle is. It's not quantum vacuums. It's not string theory. Aristotle says nothing is what rocks dream without. It's nothing. And so the third one is he has to be personal. What does that mean? Since he chose to convert a state of nothingness into the time-space material universe, he must be volitional entity. That's why we have to rule out a force. You know, people say, oh yeah, I believe in a force. An impersonal force does not have the ability to make choices. They cannot bring the universe into existence. That's illogical. So from the teleological argument, from the design argument, we can conclude that God is supremely intelligent since he designed life and the universe with such incredible complexity and precision. And he's also purposeful since he designed that many forms of life to live in this specific and ordered environment. All right? And what do we know from the moral argument? He must be absolutely pure. He's the unchangeable standard of morality by which all actions are measured. This includes infinite justice and infinite love. All right? All right, so what is the first cause like? The cause must be supernatural. The cause must be powerful. The cause must be eternal. The cause must be timeless. The cause must be immaterial, must be personal, and it must be intelligent. In addition, finally, it must be moral, because no moral law can be given without a giver, without someone who's a volitional entity. A force cannot give moral laws or cannot bring the universe into existence, all right? So can it be multiple gods? Vitor, why can it be multiple gods? All right? No, it can't. Let me give you my arguments. God is infinite. Therefore, there cannot be more than one infinite being. So if I have a God here, but this God has all the attributes, this cannot be God, this being cannot be God, because this being is infinite. And by definition, the infinite being lacks nothing. So it's logically impossible to have two infinite beings. All right? And so, Vitor, can finite beings exist that are more powerful than human beings? Of course. Yes, in fact, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all teach the existence of angels and demons, but this is not polytheism, which denied that there's a supreme, infinite being, eternal, to whom all creatures owe their existence to, and to whom all creatures are ultimately accountable, all right? So why is pantheism out? Pantheism is, God is you, God is me, God is the trees, God is air. Why is it not impossible? Because through the cosmological argument, the being has to be personal in order to bring the universe into existence and to bring moral law into existence, all right? And in addition, the design argument, the being cannot be material. He cannot be material. He cannot be grass. He cannot be you and me because he created time, space, and matter. There was no matter. There was no time. There was no space. And at one point, it exploded out of nothing. So he has to be immaterial. In addition, the moral argument states that the being must be moral. An impersonal force does not recognize morality. All right? So what can we conclude? The only three possible religions, world religions that are possible through the evidence is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They're the only one that has the attributes and are defended and are given the evidence through the evidence I have given and presented. So which could not be true? It's non-theism. Why? Which ones? Hinduism, because it's pantheistic and polytheistic. Then you have Buddhism, which is atheistic or pantheistic. Then you have New Age, which is pantheistic. And you have secular humanism, which is atheistic. Then you have Mormonism, which is polytheistic. And then you have Wicca, pantheistic or polytheistic. And you have Taoism or Taoism, which is sometimes called. It's pantheistic or atheistic. And then you have Confucianism, which is atheistic. And then you also have Shintoism, which is polytheistic. And then finally, you have the flying spaghetti monster. It cannot be the flying spaghetti monster. Have you guys heard about that? All right, just making sure. It cannot be because impersonal force cannot bring the universe into being. And an impersonal force cannot justify morality. He's not volitional. And it cannot be Jediism. You know what Jediism is? It's a religion based on Star Wars. It's a real religion. They believe the force is everywhere. Yeah, and I'm not lying. You could go to JediChurch.com. It cannot beat that because just like the flying spaghetti monster, an impersonal force cannot do anything, all right? So, whoa, wait a minute, Vitor. Are you saying that the millions of people practicing these religions are false? Yes. Why? I'm not saying it out of Christian morals and a Christian presupposition. I'm saying it because of the evidence. The evidence does not defend these religions. So just as certain football players are rightfully cut from the roster of possible players because they lack necessary abilities, certain world religions are rightfully cut from the roster of possible true religions because they lack necessary qualities, all right? So, whoa, Vitor, does this mean that every teaching of a non-theistic religion, of all those millions of people that practice it, is false and that there's nothing good about it? No, I'm not stating that. The good be good. But as a way of looking at the world, any non-theistic religion is based on a false foundation based on the evidence. While some details may be true, the core of any non-theistic religious doctrine is false. The foundation is an error, even though they might have some truth in them. Like I've stated earlier, they might have some right moral precepts, like don't love each other. But the foundation of them has to be wrong, although they might have some rightness in them. So you guys might not agree with me, but I actually invite you to challenge my argument. I didn't do this out of, I'm a Christian. That's why I defend Christianity. I did this simply focusing and based on the conclusion through the evidence. So start reflecting in the light of this evidence and bring challenges to this argument. Because the amount of challenges you bring to this argument, if it's still standing, then that has to be the right one. If you guys can bring it today. So keep in mind, I did not use the Bible to defend and argue the existence of a God. Why? Because even Lord Calvin, our measurement of what do you call it, temperature, you have Celsius, and then you have Fahrenheit, and you have Kelvin. He states, the more thoroughly I conduct scientific research, the more I believe science excludes atheism. If you think strongly enough, you will be forced by science to believe in a God, which is the foundation of all religions. Amen. So then which one is true, Vitor? Which one is true? Judaism, Christianity, or Islam? Because logically, can they all be true? No, of course not. They cannot all be true. That's why next week, I'm going to be looking at the resurrection. Now, the resurrection is a crucial point. In Christianity, they believe that, yes, Jesus not only was crucified, resurrected, but he was also God. In Islam, they say, and I'll give you an excerpt from Quran, it says they did not crucify him, they did not die, or it may seem that they did, all right? And in Judaism, they may say some of them deny, say that Jesus was a false prophet, but early traditions say, all right, he was crucified, but the disciples stole the body in the tomb. So they all give contradictory views, so they cannot all be wrong. So that's what I'm going to address next week with the resurrection, the crucifixion. So, before I go with this, I think this argument I presented was solid. It was solid. But the resurrection is airtight. It's honestly airtight. I'm gonna go through every possible thing. The disciples stole the body. Did they hallucinate? Did they have delusions? I'm gonna go through every one of that. I honestly think it's airtight. All right. So if you're probably like, all right, Vitor, good job, or it's like, wow, very informational, good job, yay. Because probably some of you are many ignorant or apathetic about truth and morality or religion. You might wake up tomorrow and say, all right, I really don't care about what he said. But I want to keep, and then some of you may be apathetic. Ignorance is simply not knowing. It's like, I do not know. And apathy is simply not caring. And this is what I feel is in a lot of our young teenagers. You guys simply don't care for the existence of a God. But before you guys do that, let me point out to what an atheist said. I don't believe in the Bible, but if it's true, then I'll be in big trouble. You have no idea how true it is. If the Bible is true, then many people have chosen an unpleasant destiny. In fact, if the Bible were true, then everyone's eternal destiny can be read from its pages. It also applies the opposite way. On the other hand, if the Bible is not true, then many Christians are unwittingly wasting a lot of time. I wasted a lot of time here. Money, or even some cases, even their lives preaching Christianity in hostile territories. So the basic message I want to say through this slide, I say, either way, the existence of God is the most important fact in your life. Please, guys, though, if you're an unbeliever, if you're regardless of religious belief, do not go and just say simply, I do not care, or simply, I don't have enough information. Because when I was growing up about 3 years ago, I was actually facing factual doubt, which I'll go in later. I actually didn't believe in the existence of God because of science. But then what I do, I wasn't ignorant. I simply just say, oh, I don't know. I actually brushed up on my studies. I read a bunch of books, and I saw that it actually, not only a God, but actually Christianity, science defends, all right? So please don't do that blanket statement of simply saying, oh, I really don't care, or, oh, I don't have enough information. All right, so Vitor, if you presented this, then why don't many people believe in God? You give 3 arguments, and many of you may think, or many of you may not, that it was pretty solid. Why? Why don't they? I have 3 possibilities. First is the factual or intellectual objections. People may not know the evidence that proves God or the scientific objections. Just like, can you guys raise your hand if you knew all the evidence that I've presented before? Exactly. Some people, they may not, and they may continue swallowing this. It's like, oh, there is no factual evidence. There is no evidence for God. The second one may be emotional. Doctrine of hell, suffering. Why does God allow me to suffer? Why? And the problem of evil. Oh, if there's an all-good God, how can there be evil? You got that. And example, why did he allow my parents to divorce? Well, why does he have to allow me to suffer every single day of my life? That's an emotional objection, all right? And the third one, why people don't believe in God, is volitionally. They say, we don't want it to be true. I don't want to yield to God. And actually, some people are like, what? That's actually true? Yes, that's actually true. Let me go to a quote. Okay. So it says, a Christian philosopher says, Frank Turek, he says, if Christianity is true, would you become a Christian? So I pose that to you guys, if you're an unbeliever. If Christianity is true, would you become a Christian? You don't have to answer, all right? So then some people, a majority of the people, when they respond, they're like, of course, that's kind of a dumb question. But he states several people would say, no, I don't care about an existence of a God. I would never bow down to this God. I was like, whoa, hold on. Is that logical? Is that reasonable? Let me show you a great atheist, Friedrich Nietzsche said. If one were to prove this God of the Christians to us, we should even be able less to believe in him. It is our preference that decides against Christianity, not our arguments. It's our preference that decides against Christianity. So the problem is not intellectually, it's not intelligence, it's right here, it's the heart. They don't want it to be true, even though if you present the amount of arguments to it, all right? So I pray that you guys will take that quote, if Christianity is true, would you become a Christian, and apply it to your life. If it was really true, would you become a Christian? And I pray that any of you won't fall into this volitional type of doubt. And then some people may say, well, why do people do that? Why? Because he says that it's our preference that decides Christianity, not our arguments. And he says, if one were to prove this God of the Christian to us, we should even be able less to believe in him. So they say, okay, so because no amount of evidence can compel anyone to believe. No amount of evidence can compel someone to believe. Belief requires not only a assent of the mind, but also the will, all right? This is something very important. Because accepting the truth in Christianity will require them to change their thinking, priorities, lifestyle, and morals. That's why some people don't want to be a Christian, don't want to get involved in this religion jumbo mumbo, because I'm going to have to change my thinking, my friends, priorities, lifestyle, and morals. And people are not quite willing to give up control of that. They're not. And so this is my whole argument. Guys, you can come to present questions, but I'm going to go over the emotional objections. Why is there evil, suffering? So here's what I'm listing. But I'm just going to ask which questions you guys want, and then I'm going to go for it. You guys, after I ask for this, you guys can go get pizza and chill, all right? So the first question is, why doesn't God reveal himself more to me? All right, Vitor. All right, good evidence. Okay, whatever. Good evidence. All right, but if God would just show himself to me, I would become a Christian right now. Why doesn't he? All right? In the Old Testament, God commands slavery. I can't believe in a God like that. I can't believe in your God, Vitor. He commands slavery. Or in the Old Testament, God commands killing and genocide like the Canaanites. I can't believe in a God like that. What are you talking about? I can't believe in your God, Vitor. Mm-hmm. And then, if there is a good God, why is there evil? That's why I put it in red. I'm actually going to answer this in the next seminar, because this is the most powerful objection. Oh, Vitor, if there's a good God, then why is there evil? Why does he have to allow me to suffer? Oh, if he's all powerful and all good, he could have stopped 9/11. He could have stopped the Parkland shooting. Why doesn't he? It looks like he's not even here. Where is this good God? So that's the argument. That's the only question I'm going to answer next week, because it's that powerful. I don't want to just brush up. I just don't want to brush over it. I really want to tackle it, all right? So then the Fifth question. If God is all-knowing and he knew sin was going to happen, why didn't he create a world in which everyone was saved? Why didn't he? All right? And the sixth one, it says, all right, if God is all-loving, why would he send us to hell? He just wants us to torture and die. That God is not loving. I can't believe in a God like that. And the seventh one, what about evolution, Vitor? You just talked about a little bit about evolution. So can you be a Christian and believe in God, that God guided the process of evolution? Yeah, there's actually people, they're called theistic evolutionists. They believe that there's a God, but he guided the process of evolution. So Vitor, why don't you believe in that? I don't know. So it says, and then the eighth one, Vitor, there has been so much terror in the name of Christianity. Just think about the Crusades. KKK members claim to be Christians, and even Hitler himself claimed to be a Christian. All Christians are hypocrites. I'm tired of it. That's why I don't become a Christian. And the ninth one is, do you doubt, Vitor? Do you ever doubt, even though there's the existence of God?